The issue that seems to really have city leaders split right down the middle, the Cincinnati Parks Levy. It's a permanent property tax to maintain and develop city parks systems here. And Cincinnati's mayor was really the force behind it. Some say the tax gives Mayor John Cranley just too much power over the city's parks. Supporters say it allows residents to give public input on the future of the parks, though, ensures funding and upgrades parks that have been ignored for years. The permanent tax will cost the homeowner of a $100,000 home about $35 a year, and it's expected to raise about $5 million a year for the city's parks.
This levy came with several controversies of its own during the campaign season. It was last month when the Cincinnati Park Board returned a major donation because of allegations of possible misuse. The board said the $200,000 donation became a distraction as the board tried to gain support of issue 22. Tax watchdogs, though, claimed the contribution from the Helen Meyer Trust, managed by the Cincinnati Park Board, was illegal. Now, almost immediately, Cincinnati Mayor John Cranley requested audits into Cincinnati Board spending of foundation funds. In a memo to the city manager, the mayor questioned whether private endowment funds should be treated the same as all other park funds.
All right, let's take a look at some of the numbers, though, right now. Issue 22 here with 16% reporting, so numbers still coming in. Again, it was a late night here in Hamilton County. Against 58% there, just over 7,800 votes, 42% in the for column there. And let's talk to our experts again here, our digital reporters from WCPO.com, Lisa Bernard-Kuhn and Amanda Seitz. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, so everybody loves their parks. Everybody wants things to be taken care of. Some city council members have said, listen, we have enough money. We don't need this. There was concern that this is a charter change. How did all that play out as you covered this?
So that kind of pushback really gained steam and picked up, here in recent weeks. And so what you saw with some polling was that this would overwhelmingly be supported by Cincinnatians. And then you had some of the Parks Board spending debacle, if you will, break. You had questions increasingly from council about whether or not it was really prudent to, put this in the form of a charter amendment. And all of that has happened very recently. And so I think that's what you're seeing play out tonight is that reaction from voters.
And it's kind of interesting, too, because it's similar to the marijuana issue, right? Is that people may not be against legalizing marijuana, just like they're not against their parks. But it seemed like with this issue, they kind of started becoming against the process of how this money was going to be handed out to the parks and who had control over the money and who was making decisions over what projects would get done.
Because it was kind of handled differently than maybe what they were used to. It was, hey, we go and we vote for a levy, and we know that in a couple of years, we got to come back and say, all right, get rid of it or put it back in there. This was going to be a permanent cost for folks out there. And it may not sound like a lot each year, but when we talk about the amount per $100,000 home, there are people out there that are struggling, and $38 or whatever is an impact to their wallet.
Yeah, and to Amanda's point, this idea that this would be a permanent tax dedicated for park spending, and while the campaign talked about specific projects that these dollars would go to, new trails, new neighborhood parks, none of these items were mentioned specifically in the amendment. And so that was really a hang-up point.
No guarantee.
There was no guarantee
where this money would go.
Yeah, and so that was really an issue for folks who called themselves parks supporters, but didn't like the way that this framework was put together.
And Mayor John Cranley, a huge supporter of this. We saw his ads out there, shooting hoops, playing sports in the parks. Do you see him bringing this back? Have you heard anything to try to push this in the future?
It's going to be very difficult next year. There's going to be possibly a county parks issue, and that's why it was so crucial that they got it on the ballot this year. There's going to be several tax levies across the county. There's going to be a lot of issues that people will be asked to pull out more money for next year. So it's going to be up against a wall next year.
All right. We know you'll continue to follow it. Thank you so much. And let's get back to issue